Today we're going to be talking about our project that we decided to tackle for regionals. And our original problem that we kind of thought of is that we wanted a transportable phone holder because a lot of times there's not places to like hold your phone when you're out or like studying at the library. And sometimes you just needed to like prop it up on something. And I feel like having to prop it up on random objects can be very like inconvenient at times because it's always like sliding off, or like you have to use like two books to like just hold it up the way you want it. And so for our thought process, we kind of first started with what material we wanted to use. So that was determined by how much strength we wanted to have. And since it has to be able to hold a phone, which nowadays are like very heavy, we wanted to use ABS because it has strength and it's has friction, which is good for our hinges. And that's when we decided that we wanted like the ability to move, and we wanted a full range of motion. So then we could adjust the phone in any angle we wanted, which is why we decided to have a hinge that would provide better grip instead of just like a climb mechanism that would give us a bit of flexibility, but not the full range that we wanted. And that's kind of led us away from like having no rotating parts or complaint mechanisms at all. And then we wanted to determine the size of it. So we want the product to be able to hold a phone, and we wanted it big enough, but we didn't want it to be too big to the point where it would kind of distract from the point that it was supposed to be transportable and compact. And so we kind of try to find that sweet spot in the middle. And some important slicer settings that we noticed was like infill, because that kind of controls the strength and flexibility of the part. Also layer height, because we wanted to minimize print time, but we just wanted to make sure that it didn't hinder the quality of the product. And we also wanted to avoid any supports, like as many supports as we could, because it would just increase print time and could often lead to failure. But yeah, so for our first prototype, we kind of went with this design where we had a bottom, mid, and top plate. And so these hinges, our original idea was to have hinges that kind of print in place and would snugly fit together, and the friction of it being so close would actually be the thing that was holding the phone up. But after we printed it, we soon realized that that wasn't really feasible, since the phone weighed a lot and it wouldn't be able to like solely rely on the friction between those two parts alone. And we realized that even if it did work the first time, over time it would gradually lose its grip, and that would just not make a reliable product. And so yeah, and so that's kind of how we did it. And then we had a cutout here just to minimize material, and then also like minimize printing time, and also like for style. And then for prototype 2, we made a couple of changes, which is where we included the nut and bolt that would cross through the hinge and tighten, so that way you can tighten it at any angle you would like. And we changed this part right here to have the plate be flush against the hinge, to create more friction that would hold the phone up better. And so we had the skills logo on there for some style points, and also some our contestant number. And the cutout we changed just because the V shape kind of led to like messy printing sometimes. Like it just wasn't as clean as we wanted it to be. And so once we changed it to more of like a squarey cutout, that fixed it. And yeah, and I'll be passing it over to Peter.
All right, so today I'll be talking about the slasher settings and the orientation. So the main goal with this project was for it to be, you go, get it, print it, and then you're done. We want it to be very easy to print and not have much thought process. You just put it on your build plate, hit slice, and let it print. So in that case, we really did not want to use supports. I personally don't like using supports. It's just a waste of material and like what gives it an extra hour print time. So when you get the file, it's going to be one file. It's going to have both the bottom, mid plate, and top plate. And the reason the hinges don't need support is because the mid plate is actually kind of acts as support basically. So the middle of the hinge here, there's a tiny gap right here to make sure that the models don't fuse together. So basically the midpoint acts as its support, making it so the hinges won't need any support. And also the angle of this right here is a perfect 45. So when I do hit slice, then hit preview, the model will kind of gradually build up on that place, on it. And then we also added a little bit of a chamfer on the little hook here. So it also didn't require any supports. And then that's that for the actual main blade. And then for the nut and bolt, we also want it to be very easy to print. So with this one, we do have to just change the orientation just really quickly. But pretty much, if you just set arrange all models, it should do all the orientation for you. And with this, I highly do not recommend printing more than one bolt. Because if you were to have more than one bolt, having them next to each other like this could cause a lot of stringing in between the parts, messing with the threads. And considering that the whole model stays in place with threads, it'd be very inconvenient if the threads wouldn't work no more, simply because there would be stringing in between. So this is how the model would work. You would unfold it, right? It would be folded like this originally. It would be folded. You take it out of your pocket, backpack, wherever. Unfold it, tighten it up a little bit because it was just folded. Tighten it up. Place it on the desk or wherever you're putting it, and simply put it on. Very easy to use. Almost no assembly required once you do put the nut and bolt in place.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and I hope you enjoyed.